Myles Garrett joins Shedeur Sanders in unfortunate company. The Cleveland Browns are beginning to have a speeding problem. After rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders was cited on 2 separate occasions, driving well over the speed limit following Browns practices, All-Pro pass rusher Myles Garrett has now reportedly been pulled over under similar circumstances as well. Per Cleveland.com's Mary Kay Cabot, Garrett was ticketed at 2:01 a.m. on Saturday for going 100 miles per hour in a 60 miles per hour zone in Strongsville, Ohio after the team returned home from their preseason game in Charlotte. The former Defensive Player of the Year had previously vowed not to drive so recklessly 3 years removed from the scary Porsche flipping incident he had back in 2022. That wreck left him with a sprained left shoulder and right biceps injury after his vehicle went off the side of the road and rolled multiple times after trying to avoid an animal. Garrett was reportedly given a $250 fine after his run-in this past weekend and isn't required to appear in court as long as it's taken care of. The 4-time All-Pro was a full participant in yesterday's training camp practice as the Browns prepare to hold joint practices with the Super Bowl champion Eagles on Wednesday and Thursday. Hopefully, this is the last of these kinds of stories to come out of the Browns organization with the season right around the corner, and thankfully, with all 3 of these incidents nobody else was harmed. In Cleveland, football season was supposed to be about momentum. Training camp energy was high, rookie Shedeur Sanders had been turning heads in practice, and Myles Garrett, the franchise's defensive cornerstone, was coming off another monster year. The team felt organized, focused, and then the headlines came. Not about game-winning drives or defensive highlights. Not about perfect practices or surprise roster breakthroughs. But about incidents. The Garrett news breaks. The first ripple hit when a local reporter tweeted that Garrett had been cited for speeding. Again. For some players, a traffic ticket is barely worth a mention. But for Garrett, whose name carries weight in Cleveland sports, every off-field headline sticks like glue. By mid-morning, the sports talk shows were already connecting dots. It wasn't just that Garrett had gotten a ticket. It was that this happened during a training camp stretch where the team had preached no distractions. That's when Shedeur Sanders' name re-entered the conversation. The Shedeur backstory. Sanders had faced his own uncomfortable spotlight earlier in the offseason. His incident, a relatively minor off-field situation that the Browns quickly tried to keep quiet, had briefly made headlines before fading under a wave of preseason hype. Still, it was enough to give critics ammunition. And now, with Garrett's speeding citation splashed across news feeds, some analysts began lumping the 2 players together. "We've got a culture issue brewing," one sports radio host warned. 2 high-profile players, 2 unnecessary headlines. If you want to be taken seriously as a playoff team, you don't want your stars making news for anything but football. Unfortunate company. The phrase "unfortunate company" started trending among Browns fans online. Some used it jokingly, posting side-by-side photos of Garrett and Sanders with the caption, "The distraction duo." Others took it seriously, worrying about what this meant for leadership in the locker room. It wasn't that either man had committed some unforgivable act. Both incidents were small by NFL standards, the kind of things that usually blow over after a few news cycles. But perception is powerful in sports, especially in Cleveland, where decades of false dawns have trained fans to brace for collapse. The timing problem. The real sting came from when this happened. The Browns were entering a season where expectations were high, the AFC was stacked, and every win would matter. This was supposed to be the all-business year. Instead, the early headlines were about speeding tickets and off-field hiccups. One local columnist wrote, "This is the NFL. The little things matter. They tell you who's locked in and who's coasting. You don't want your rookie quarterback learning that little lapses don't matter. You don't want your defensive captain showing up in the police blotter. It's not about the severity, it's about the signal it sends." The locker room view. Inside the team facility, the reaction was mixed. Some veterans brushed it off. "Man, if you knew all the stuff that happens around the league, you'd know this is nothing," one player said privately. Others saw the analyst chatter as an overreaction, especially for Sanders, who was just starting to navigate life as an NFL quarterback under the microscope. But a few quietly admitted the timing wasn't great. Garrett, for all his dominance on the field, is also a role model in that locker room. Sanders, whether he wants it or not, is in his rookie year's formative stage. Optics matter, even if the incidents themselves seem trivial. Fanbase split. Fans, as always, were divided. One group thought the whole "unfortunate company" narrative was media overreach, an attempt to stir drama where there was none. After all, neither Garrett nor Sanders had done anything that would affect their availability for Week 1. The other group saw it as a warning sign. Discipline off the field translates to discipline on the field, they argued. A lack of focus in one area could lead to costly mistakes in another. For a fan base conditioned to expect the worst, the smallest spark can set off alarms. Media fuel. The national media, sensing a storyline, began connecting the dots in ways only sports talk can. Garrett's speeding ticket became a pattern of questionable judgment. Sanders' earlier hiccup was reframed as a sign of immaturity that Cleveland needs to address. One ESPN segment went as far as putting both incidents on a timeline graphic, drawing a straight line between them, as if to say, see? This is how locker room culture erodes. Never mind that they were completely unrelated. In the media game, narrative is king. Stefanski's balancing act. Head coach Kevin Stefanski found himself in the awkward position of addressing two unrelated minor controversies without making them bigger than they were. His public comments were measured. "We hold everyone to a high standard," he told reporters. "Both guys understand that. We're moving forward." Privately, sources said Stefanski made it clear that the team couldn't afford to give the media anything to latch onto this season. Even small things could snowball into distractions. The bigger picture. This isn't about a ticket or a rookie's misstep. It's about Cleveland's football history. A history littered with almost seasons derailed by drama, injury, or bad luck. The franchise knows how quickly momentum can slip away. That's why the phrase "unfortunate company" hits harder here than it might in another city. Browns fans have seen too many little warning signs turn into bigger problems. Two unrelated blips might be just that, or they might be the early chapters of another season where the promise fades before the leaves turn. The path forward. Both Garrett and Sanders will have plenty of chances to change the conversation. A dominant Garrett performance in Week 1 and a poised Sanders under center will erase most of the off-field chatter. Winning always does.